We're going to Miami Dolphins mailbag on today's show. On a bye week this weekend, but I still want to answer some questions surrounding the Fins as we load up for Week 7 against the Indianapolis Colts. But before we get into some of your questions, I want to make sure you're following us over on Instagram. We do have an IG page. It's Dolphins Today IG. Handles at the bottom of your screen right now. We have 416 followers. I'd like to get to 500 before Week 7 against the Colts. And if we get to 500 before the Colts, we'll do a little giveaway on that live show. So make sure you're following us over there. We do post content in between each of our videos here on the channel. So if you want more wall-to-wall coverage 24 hours, make sure you're on our Instagram. Kenny the Penny with a question. Is Tua the starter next year? I think he is, yeah. I understand, and this is actually a great question because this will be pondered in the offseason, especially if Tua comes back, looks like shit, or if Tua comes back and gets hurt again. But I would assume this. You gave Tua a 4-year extension. You're paying him $43 million per season, $212 million total. Now, it's not fully guaranteed, so there are a couple out avenues earlier than the 4 seasons. But unless there is a catastrophic injury or he looks like Bryce Young out there when he returns from injury, there is no way you don't give him at least 1 year on this contract. Now, what you might do this offseason is invest that quarterback, whether that be a pick on day 2 in the 2nd or 3rd round. Hell, maybe even a 1st-round pick if you feel comfortable at a guy that is available in that round. But I do believe they will have Tua be the starter in 2025, but they'll invest in case that year doesn't work out or he gets hurt again and they have a foreseeable long-term option there. Think about what the Packers have been doing. Drafting Aaron Rodgers when they already had Brett Favre. Drafting Jordan Love when they already had Aaron Rodgers. That is a strategy that has worked out for other teams in the past, and I could see Miami taking it that way. Retro Dolphins. Who gets the next big payday in the offseason between Jaelan Phillips and Jevon Holland? This is also a fascinating question, and both are not paid right now. Jaelan Phillips this is his 4th year. His 5th-year option was picked up. So Miami does not need to pay him this offseason. They could play out next year on the 5th-year option. They didn't do that with Jaylen Waddle. They paid him after year 3, so they have him locked in for the next 4 seasons, which was very smart. Actually, 5 seasons this year, next year, and then the 3-year extension after that. Jevon Holland's not. He is an unrestricted free agent this upcoming year. And now Miami will be very intriguing to see what they do with Jevon Holland. They can do one of 2 things. They can try to extend him after the season. They can try to let him hit free agency and then match whatever offer he gets. Or they can simply franchise tag him. Now that you have paid Tua, there is really no other player set to hit free agency this year worth franchise tagging outside of Jevon Holland. So if you feel like he is going to leave you, well, and you don't want him to leave, you could franchise tag him for $15, $14 million, whatever the number ends up being, and keep him on the team. I will actually make the bold prediction that none of these 2 guys gets a big payday by Miami. I think they let Jaelan Phillips play out the 5th year, trying to return from that knee surgery, and I think they franchise tag Jevon Holland. That would be my bold prediction for the next 365 with the Miami Dolphins. More questions to answer here, but let me know. Dolphins 2-3, bye week, chance to make a run coming out of the bye if they're able to beat Indianapolis and get Tua back in week 8. What's your confidence level in making the playoffs? Scale at 1 to 10. Cheesemonger, if we were to fire Mike McDaniel, who should we replace him with? Now, intriguing question because there's 2 different ways you can go about finding a new head coach. Would you like to have the same type of coach come in, whether it be an offensive-minded player-friendly head coach? Maybe you go with a more defensive-minded head coach. Maybe you go with a guy that is just a motivator of men and can lead a locker room and then just hire 2 really good defensive and offensive coordinators. Now, I don't think Mike McDaniel will be fired. He got an extension through 2028 before the season started, and as long as the Dolphins don't go, 2-15, he probably doesn't get fired. So I think Mike McDaniel stays, but if they did fire him and they were looking to replace him with someone, my number 1 pick would probably be Mike Vrabel. Frank O'Connor coming in. Hey, do you think we should tank part of the year to get a good pick, but not necessarily a top 5 pick? Reason I ask is we don't look good so far. Frank, well, here's my thing. If you are going to tank, then you should tank. You're not going to tank part of the year. If you want to lose every game, lose every game. But my thing is this. The Dolphins have a relatively easy schedule in the next 6 games coming out of the bye week. They just do. It's very simple. They play the Colts, They play the Cardinals. They play the Bills, the Rams, the Raiders, the Patriots. Those are 6 winnable games, and that game against Indianapolis is the only game that you might be without Tua moving forward. Like, if you're able to win against the Colts, who have a bottom 5 defense in football, and you move to 3-3, and then you get Tua back with a very easy 5-week stretch against bad teams in the Cardinals and Rams, bad teams in the Raiders and Patriots, a 5-1 stretch in the next 6 is very, very much on the table. And if that ultimately happens, there will be no tanking. We will only be thinking postseason. I don't want to tank whatsoever, because even if the Colts beat the Dolphins and they're 2-4, they get Tua back in week 8 and go 4-1 in that next 5 games, you're still 6-5 and you're still in the playoff hunt. I'm not a proponent of tanking this year. I think this team has juice, good momentum flowing, and with Tua on the return on the horizon, playoffs is also on the horizon. You should make sure you are started with PrizePicks, the #1 daily fantasy sports app and platform in North America. I play PrizePicks on a daily basis, and it makes watching my favorite teams play on the weekends very much more enjoyable. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. PrizePicks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts, like Taco Tuesday, for example. Today, each Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. PrizePicks is the best way to win real money this football season and other sports seasons like hockey, basketball, baseball. Which players are going off? Which ones aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on PrizePicks. I have an entry for Week 6 in the football world, even though Dolphins are playing. We still got some entries here. Taking them more than on Jayden Daniels, 221.5 passing yards, more than Darnell Mooney, 53.5 receiving yards, and less than on Breece Hall, 53.5 rushing yards. 3-player entry to win 5 times my money, but with specific entries, you can win up to 100 times your money. So download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. You don't even need to win that lineup to get the $50. It's guaranteed. Appreciate PrizePicks for sponsoring today's show. PrizePicks, run your game. All right, so thank you, Frank, for asking that question about the tanking. I don't think they should tank whatsoever, but I appreciate you coming in with that question, Frank. Dubbo, looks like he's a Steelers fan coming in. Would y'all accept the trade for Russell Wilson, Van Jefferson, and a 6th or 7th for OBJ? I think OBJ is going to be good in Miami. But if they didn't accept that, I would have to strangle Chris Grier. Just kidding. FBI, I was kidding. I would never do such a thing. If he doesn't fix the O-line, maybe. Okay, back to the real here. Van Jefferson is not as good as OBJ. But when you factor in you're getting him, Russell Wilson, who, by the way, stinks, but it is what it is, plus a pick, I think the Dolphins would have to accept that because you get someone a little less of a wide receiver 3, you get a certified backup quarterback, and you get a draft pick. I absolutely would accept that, and I would expect Chris Grier to accept that as well. You just simply got to do that. All right, make sure you are subscribed to the channel because for more Dolphins news, rumors, and daily content, we are your place. We had you covered this entire bye week. We're not slowing down because this Week 7 matchup against the Colts is very, very close. So make sure you're subscribed because we'll be live for that game as well as having you covered on every single game week. Little question here. Would you accept the trade for Jaylen Waddle? No, I would not. I don't really know what could be offered for Waddle and which way I would accept. As long as Waddle isn't requesting a trade, the Dolphins ain't trading them because it's very difficult to come by the wide receivers production that Waddle's had. Now, I don't know if he'll reach 1,000 yards this season. He's gotten off to a slow start. No Tua Tagovailoa, but he's had 1,000 yards in each of the first 3 seasons of being a National Football League player. That just doesn't happen often. The only player that has really started off on that trajectory, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Mike Evans. It doesn't happen often where someone just consistently puts up 1,000 yards since entering the league. And with Tyreek Hill getting older, Jaylen Waddle is the future of this wide receiver core. So unless someone's coming in with an absolute massive offer to where they're offering like 2 first-round picks and the Dolphins are in a spot as a franchise that is horrific and they just could use all the draft capital they can, then no, I am not trading Jaylen Waddle. There would be no way I trade him. But if you ask the question about Tyreek Hill being traded, there is a pathway, there is an avenue where that potentially could happen. What do you think, though? while we are in a bye week, what change do the Dolphins need to make the most in order to become a more efficient and winning football team? 2-3 right now. If they want to make the postseason, how does it happen? Drop your one change down below. Lorenzo Flores with the question. Do you think our coach will learn by adjusting the Huntley to have new passing plays for Tua, since he was not adjusting to opposing defenses to deep safeties, more running plays, play action? So if you're asking if the Dolphins offense is going to remain similar to where it was with Tua before he ultimately got hurt, it's possible. It's also possible they switch it. I think we saw a light bulb potentially go off in Mike McDaniel's head this past week against New England. I'm being serious. Like, they ran the ball 40 times. 40 designed runs. That is, I didn't fact check this. I kind of wish I did. I'd be willing to go on the limb and say that might be the most in any game coached by Mike McDaniel with the Miami Dolphins. Now I really want to check. Let me know if I'm right or wrong about that in the comment section. And maybe he's just going to start thinking that. This offensive line has had its struggles. Maybe it's not a good pass-blocking offensive line. Maybe they should lean on the run more. And if they do, they have a really good trio in this backfield. Jalen Wright, Raheem Mostert, Devon Achane when he returns from concussion protocol. Like, this team is good. And then once you really get this opposing defenses to commit to your run game, that's when you hit those play-action passes over the middle of the field and those deep balls. Two high safeties are going to be a thing consistently against Miami with the speed they have. That's why Odell Beckham Jr. and Jonnu Smith over the middle of the field and making people miss in open space in between the line of scrimmage and the sticks is so very vital. Cheesemonger with a question. Which positions do you think we're thinnest in, and do you propose we sign to fill them? Right now, I would say we're most thin at interior offensive line. Eichenberg, Robert Jones, and Brewer, your three starters, but behind them, it's ugly. And then I would probably have to say thinnest from there. It's edge, especially with Jaelan Phillips' injury. No Bradley Chubb right now. Emmanuel Ogbah, Chop Robinson, Quentin Bell, Tyus Bowser, and Mo Kamara, year 5. It's not great, Jim. 2 sacks against New England, but everyone gets sacks against the Patriots. Their offensive line is the worst in football. So if you're trying to fill a position during the season, I would think interior offensive line and edge rushers until Bradley Chubb returns. And if he doesn't feel 100%, maybe you still want to sign an edge rusher or trade for one. Make sure you are following us on Instagram. Like I said, we have you covered over there in between each of our videos here on the channel. So if you want 24/7 coverage of the Miami Dolphins, make sure you're subscribed, but following us on Instagram as well. Let's get to 500 before week 7 against the Indianapolis Colts.